Hey everybody, welcome to SchollyLife. We've got Alexa Anton-Ohlmeyer from LA joining us. She is one of the top tennis players in the whole country for the class of 2013. She's on her way to Georgia Tech next year to play tennis for them. Alexa, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's just start a little bit as far as when you were young. When did you get into tennis?
I started when I was 8, but I didn't start taking it really competitively until I was 10 or 11, I'd say, because I was playing in multiple other sports. My family is a very big sports family, so since I could walk, I played golf and baseball, boys baseball, I should clarify, not softball. And I also played soccer. So I took all of them very seriously, and I got to a point when I needed to commit to one of them. I wasn't the typical player who's only played tennis or who started when I was really young. So there's the pros and cons. There's some times when I wish I would have committed just to tennis earlier, and then there's other times when I'm like, no, you know what? I'm really happy that I didn't, because I learned so much more footwork from soccer and endurance from soccer and just kind of the go at it and get it from soccer as well. So both of them really complement each other really well.
Okay. Now, you are a senior and you are ranked the highest you've ever been in your life. You had a
Yes.
phenomenal summer
Mm-hmm.
from junior to senior year. Just
Yes.
talk a little bit about what it took from kind of 10th grade, maybe you were 100, 150 on tennis recruiting, to
Right.
now being 30 or 20,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you are. How did
Right.
that happen? How did you go from being, good as a 10th grader to great as a 12th grader?
All right, so I had always been a very hard worker. It was just a matter of putting me in the right situation, I would say. I was very committed. I was basically, my life was just tennis and school and really focusing on what was important to me. I spent so many more hours off court training as well as on court training. Getting a lot more balls was very important to me, and learning to win. I always wanted to have the very clean technique and be very professional about myself, but I didn't have the consistency, I didn't have the strength to put them all together. You put so much work into it, it's going to pay off one way or another. So it's just a matter of when you're in those deep third sets, or if you're playing against the highest ranked player that you've ever played before. It's really about digging deep and finding out who you really are and then pushing through that. And then once you gain a win or two like that, then they slowly start coming more and more and more. And then you really, there was the confidence thing, I think that was my issue. And once I had about 6 or 7 good wins under my belt, I was like, oh, I really can do this.
Okay.
So,
Now, a lot of players, a lot of athletes in the pro level and junior level, college level, talk about really hitting the off-court training, which gives them
yes,
confidence that, hey, I'm strong enough, I'm fast enough, I can make enough balls, I can outwork my opponent on the other end. What
absolutely.
did you do specifically off the court? I mean, running, lifting, training. For the people
Yes.
out there, what did you really do? How many hours? What kind of training were you doing?
Okay, well, let's see, I play about 3 hours on the court every day. And then 4 times a week, I do off-court training. And in that, it involves doing a lot of agility and sprinting, like speed work, as well as a bit of endurance. But
How many
hmm,
hours a week would you say you were putting in into the fitness when you were getting from, that 10th grade year to that 12th grade year, be getting much better?
right. So if I was playing 3 hours a day, so 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, depending on if there was tournaments or not, I'd put in maybe 6 hours off-court training.
Okay.
So
So
I
give
kind of
give 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 the audience an idea of a daily life for Alexa. What's a daily morning, afternoon, night
okay.
schedule to become so good?
All right. So currently, what it is, well, I do half independent study and half on campus for my classes.
Okay.
So I go to school from like 7:45 until noon. I will either have my trainer from 1 to 3, and then I drive 30 minutes to go to tennis, and I train from 4 to 6. And
Okay.
I come home, eat dinner, shower, and then do about 3 hours of homework.
Okay, so that's
that's
what it
the
takes.
typical day.
Let's move gears. Let's talk a little bit about your recruiting process. So, at what stage did you start to kind of make a list of schools, and what were your thoughts on kind of the schools you thought you wanted to go to?
All right, I started all of this. I mean, growing up in Southern Cal, you just kind of have the idea in your mind. You're like, okay, USC, UCLA, but then you don't really think too much out there. That's just kind of your initial thoughts. So then, starting like sophomore year is when I really wanted to get the process going.
Okay.
I started talking with you guys, and I knew that a school in the Sun Belt is what I was looking for. As long as it's warm weather, I cannot handle cold weather very well. So
Okay.
it is very important, especially as a SoCal girl, to go to warm weather for me. Good academics is also very high on my priority list, as well as a very good tennis school. And I've always wanted to play post-college tennis. So that being said, a coach that would be able to work with me and continuously develop me, we came up with there's some schools in Texas. There was some in the South. There's even there were some California and Arizona schools. So between all of those, you have the initial thoughts of where you kind of want to go. But now that I look back, I'm like, I had absolutely no idea. I mean, I know that those were kind of on my radar, but I didn't know anything about the school, anything about the coaches. It wasn't until I really started, once I took official visits and I got to meet them or I talked on the phone with them, which was the most nerve-wracking thing in my entire life I've ever had to do. So, but when you make those bonds and when you start talking with them and visiting, you kind of put everything together, and it was difficult, I'll admit.
And eventually, did you get comfortable with them?
Yes, the ones who I spoke with more, I got more comfortable with. The ones who were easy to talk to, they didn't. It was more conversational. It wasn't as like strictly business. Those ones, oh my goodness. So once I got to talking with schools, I'd email them. I'd say like, oh, do you have any time to talk? And I'd give them a time frame, and they'd give me a time frame. We'd figure out when I could call them. Once we did, I definitely, like the first month or so, I had like a notepad with a few notes that I wanted to make sure I would say, or the questions to ask. And once you get more comfortable, it makes the world of a difference. I was trying to be as best of a communicator as I could. So anytime they email me, I'd want to email back within 24 to 48 hours, like no more, and basically as early as possible, because it sets a precedent. It sets the business tone, the one that you're going to take it seriously and you're not just going to slack off. Like if you're interested, you're interested, and they can tell.
Let's talk about official visits. A lot of girls do not take them. A lot of your friends, I'm sure, committed early without taking them. What are your thoughts in general about official visits, and talk a little bit about where you went on official visits and what your experience was like?
Yeah. So I went to Alabama, Pepperdine, Texas Tech, and Georgia Tech. You meet with the academic and athletic advisors. You get a tour of the campus. You meet the girls. You have lunch with them. You watch them train. You both on and off court most of the time. And then you stay in the dorms with them. If it's a football school or just a big athletic school, you'll go to another athletic event, or if they have a tennis match, you'll go and watch that. It's a busy weekend, and then you have to fly out the next day and expect yourself to go to school on Monday. I don't know how some of my friends were able to commit without going on official trips. That's when I really learned what it is I was looking for, because there's some schools where they're more outgoing, there's some which are much more studious and quiet, like they're not as outgoing, we can say. There's the big city, there's the small city. You have to experience it like a college student.
Well, I really, really appreciate your time, your insight, your education. Alexa, you're awesome. We're going to follow you. And we're going to catch up with you once you win a national title at Georgia Tech.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.